Seoul awoke to a kind of tension that felt almost electric, an unease that rippled across social media. Morning talk shows. Entertainment bulletins like a silent alarm. Korea's golden couple. Hyun Bin and son Ye-jin. The duo whose marriage once symbolized hope, stability, and cinematic destiny, suddenly found themselves at the center of an unexpected storm. What ignited this nationwide panic was not a scandalous photo, nor a leaked message, nor an anonymous accusation. It was a sentence, barely 10 words, spoken gently by son Ye-jin during a light-hearted online appearance. Yet within hours, the sentence was torn apart, stripped of context, and twisted into a narrative so alarming that Korea could not look away. It began innocently. Son Ye-jin, radiant in a soft knit sweater, had been speaking casually with fans about life, motherhood, small changes that come with growth. She laughed often, her tone warm and calm, the way she always sounded when addressing her audience. Then she said something so simple, so universally relatable, that no one in the live stream reacted at first. Marriage always brings new challenges, she said, her voice thoughtful but bright. It was a statement that could have come from anyone, a reflection on learning, adapting, evolving. But once that gentle comment was clipped into a 10-second video and uploaded without context, the meaning shifted dramatically. And the shift was catastrophic. Overnight, online communities caught fire. Sensational caption, Son Ye-jin hints at marital struggle, hovered beneath a cropped screenshot of her face mid-sentence, frozen in an expression that looked far more somber than it had in real time. Comment threads exploded with speculation. And within minutes the rumor machine was operating at full speed. Is the fairy tale marriage cracking? One post asked. Her eyes looked tired. Something is wrong, another insisted. And then came the snowball, edited videos with dramatic music. Anonymous accounts claiming industry insiders had noticed distance between the couple. And social media detectives analyzing what they believed were signs of emotional weight in her tone. Her original message, meant to express how becoming a mother had changed her perspective, was drowned beneath the noise. Challenges became problems. Growth became tension. And new changes were interpreted as hints of separation. It didn't matter that none of it made sense. It didn't matter that she had continued the sentence by expressing gratitude and joy. The short clip, circulated thousands of times, became the only version that people cared about. What worsened the situation was timing. Hyun Bin was working overseas on a tightly scheduled film project. His absence from public view was immediately taken as confirmation of trouble. Where is Hyun Bin? Became a trending question on Korean portals. The fact that he had been gone for weeks before the live stream did nothing to calm the speculation. Now, every movement, or lack thereof, became evidence. Simple absence of a ring in an airport photo from months ago resurfaced with fresh urgency. A fan-taken picture of him looking tired after filming was recast as a sign of emotional turmoil. Even the fact that he had not liked a recent social media post of his wife's was dissected, debated, and catalogued. And then came the forums, the wild frontier of Korean rumor culture, where anonymous users claimed to have heard whispers from stylists, managers, or neighbors. One particular post claimed that the couple had been living separately for months. Despite offering no proof, it was quickly debunked. But the damage was already done. The mix of speculation, fear, and morbid curiosity had created a storm that could no longer be contained. What truly added fuel to the fire was silence. For the first time since their marriage, neither Hyun Bin nor son Ye-jin responded immediately. In Korean celebrity culture, silence breeds suspicion. Every hour without clarification felt like an eternity. The couple, known for their sincerity and transparency, maintained their quiet stance, hoping, perhaps naively, that people would see through the distortion. But the silence only amplified the noise. Entertainment reporters, desperate for leads, began approaching staff members from previous projects. None of them offered comments. But their refusal was interpreted as further indication of hidden truth. Even foreign news outlets began running headlines translated from the now infamous Korean threads. TikTok and YouTube channels produced exaggerated analysis videos, zooming in on Ye-jin's expression frame by frame, as though an emotional truth could be extracted from pixels. Meanwhile, inside Korea, division among the public became visible. Some rallied fiercely in their defense. Supporters pointed out the absurdity of the rumor, reminding others that Ye-jin had been glowing with happiness just days before. sharing joyful stories about motherhood and filming. Others insisted they had sensed tension between the couple for months, an assertion based entirely on reconstructing unrelated events into a single fabricated narrative. It was a storm built on imagination, but one powerful enough to reshape the public atmosphere. Sun Ye-jin herself reportedly felt overwhelmed, not by the rumor itself, but by how easily her sincerity had been weaponized against her. Friends close to her, to entertainment insiders, said she was baffled at how harmless comment about adjusting to parenthood had spiraled into national speculation about her marriage. She had spoken out of warmth, affection, and authenticity, unaware that a fragment of her words would become a spark in a dry forest of online sensationalism. For Hyun, the silence carried its own weight. Those around him said he knew the internet was cracking under pressure but couldn't immediately respond because of filming constraints and time zone differences. His agency debated whether to release a formal statement. Some argued that reacting would suggest there was something to hide. Others warned that waiting longer could allow the rumor to evolve into something far more dangerous. Even before he spoke, his outlets had already compiled timelines, pointing to coincidences as supposed proof of marital instability. By the end of the week, the situation had escalated to an almost surreal level. A story born from a single misunderstood sentence had become a fully developed narrative, complete with theories and predictions. Grocery stores carried magazines with speculative covers. Afternoon talk shows dissected the couple's recent public appearances, comparing them to older clips to identify emotional differences. The frenzy was relentless, and the illusion had grown so large that even those who knew it was false felt momentarily trapped by its momentum. Then something unexpected happened. Just as the rumor reached its peak, agencies released a joint statement confirming that Hyun and Sun Ye-jin would appear together at an upcoming private charity gathering, a gathering they had originally intended to attend quietly without media involvement. The announcement sent shockwaves through the entertainment world. Lined up before dawn, commentators predicted everything from a marriage announcement to a separation confirmation. Fans prayed the appearance would finally put the chaos to rest. The anticipation was unlike anything seen in months. Korea held its breath, waiting for the couple to step into the light and address the rumor that had swallowed the nation whole. The silence that had once fueled speculation now transformed into suspense, a moment of collective tension, stretched thin across the country. Reporters whispered theories among themselves, lenses polished, microphones raised, every heartbeat synchronized with the expectation of what was about to unfold. And as the doors to the venue opened and the crowd surged forward, one question hovered in the air like a storm cloud waiting to break. What would Hyun and Sun Ye-jin say when faced with a rumor that had forced them, finally, to speak? The air inside the venue trembled with anticipation. The walls themselves were bracing for the moment Korea's most scrutinized couple would finally step into sight. Cameramen adjusted their lenses. Reporters tightened their grips on their microphones. And fans held on to their breath as the doors parted. And then, gracefully, without the slightest hesitation, Hyun and Sun Ye-jin appeared, together. It was the kind of entrance that silenced a room instantly. They walked side by side, their pace unhurried, expressions steady. Hyun wore a quiet determination on his face, a kind of protective resolve that contrasted sharply with the gentleness radiating from Sun Ye-jin. Her eyes, though soft, carried a hint of resilience, as though she had spent days collecting herself to finally address something she never imagined would require explanation. The way he subtly placed his hand at the small of her back spoke volumes, before a single word was spoken. Their presence alone began to dismantle the narrative that had spiraled out of control. When she took the microphone, the room felt impossibly still. Sun Ye-jin's voice was calm, more pained than her public persona usually allowed, but unwavering. She explained that her earlier comment, those few innocent words about challenges and changes, was never about marital hardship. It was about learning to navigate life as a mother, balancing growth with responsibility, about embracing transformation with humility. The sentence had been a reflection of gratitude, not sorrow, of evolution, not struggle. Yet once stripped from its context, it became something she no longer recognized. There was a moment, brief but striking, when her voice trembled slightly. She confessed that seeing her words twisted and used against her family had been deeply upsetting. Not because she feared the rumor, but because she had not realized how fragile truth could become when placed in the wrong hands. She looked out into the sea of flashing lights, expression steadying as she emphasized how easily sincerity can be misread in a world that is hungry for scandal. Watching her speak, raw yet composed, became clear that this rumor had hurt her not as a celebrity, but as a wife and a mother trying to protect the life she cherished. When Hyun stepped forward, the energy in the room shifted again. His voice carried none of the hesitation that had fueled days of online speculation. Instead, held sharp clarity, calm authority, and unmistakable devotion. He stated plainly that there was no crisis, no separation, no hidden conflict, nothing remotely resembling the narrative that had consumed the public. Their marriage, he said, was built on trust and mutual respect, and no rumor, however persistent, could fracture that foundation. That his silence had contributed to the confusion, but he explained that he had chosen not to respond prematurely, hoping the distortion would dissolve naturally. However, once the rumor began affecting his wife, he understood silence was no longer an option. The sincerity in his words, combined with the subtle but unmistakable emotion in his tone, created a ripple effect across the room. Reporters who had prepared for a dramatic confession instead found themselves witnessing a moment of solidarity, a united front that dispelled everything the internet had constructed. Even those who had doubted them felt the weight of his conviction. It was perhaps the first time the public saw him not as an actor or a star, but as a husband stepping forward to shield the person he loved. The couple stood together before the press. Something began to shift outside the walls of the venue as well. Social media, once the epicenter of speculation, slowly changed tone. Clips of their appearance spread rapidly, but this time, edits were not manipulative. They were filled with supportive comments, apologies from users who felt remorseful, and messages from fans expressing relief. Articles that had once amplified the rumor now attempted to retract it, though the retraction could never quite match the reach of the original chaos. Analysts on evening news programs began criticizing the culture of overinterpretation and the tendency to weaponize fragments of celebrity speech. Even international outlets updated their stories, noting the clarification and acknowledging how dramatically the truth had diverged from the rumor. When the event concluded, Hyun and son Ye-jin bowed deeply to the press and fans, offering gratitude instead of resentment. They did not scold, accuse, or demand. Instead, they expressed appreciation for those who waited for the truth and gently urged the public to remember that words, especially vulnerable ones, should be handled with care. Before leaving, they shared a brief message of warmth, that they were happy, that their home was peaceful, and that they hoped their family's everyday life would remain just that, everyday, ordinary, undisturbed. As they exited the venue, cameras flashed with the same intensity they had during the height of the rumor. But the feeling had changed entirely. It was no longer a hunger for scandal, but a collective exhale, an easing of tension that had gripped the country for days. The couple moved down the hallway together, steps synchronized, their silhouettes framed by soft lights. It was in that final moment, as they walked out of view, that everything became clear. The rumor had not defined them. What defined them was the quiet strength with which they faced it. In the end, it wasn't a misunderstood sentence that shaped the story, but the way Hyun and son Ye-jin stood united against the noise. And as the doors closed behind them, Korea finally understood that their silence had never been a sign of weakness, only a pause before delivering a truth powerful enough to calm a storm.